So, fam, we've talked about the Council of Foreign Relations before on the show. When it comes to Ukraine, one of the most notable Council of Foreign Relations uh, blunder or whatnot. All right, let's see. It's not let me do it. I'm just going to go over as much as I can over here and see if I can use it. One of the biggest blunders in the Council of Foreign Relationship was Joe Biden talking about firing the Burisma, head of Burisma and stuff, because he's going to be investigating people and he didn't want his son to get in trouble. But Council of Foreign Relationships is pretty much the NGO of sorts, the think tank that makes all your decisions. Like they pretty much, since World War II, the Council of Foreign Relations has kind of pointed out many things where they're going. They pretty much control foreign policy. Richard Haas is the Klaus Schwab of the Council of Foreign Relations, and I can't find another article. I got to find it here, but this one's blurred out. But you can see Haas confirms this meeting with Lavrov he had in April. And a report of discussions has triggered controversy over the contacts. So what's going on, fam, is pretty much is that the foreign apparatus of the West, the Council of Foreign Relations, is now going and dealing directly with Russia. They're going to Lavrov. They're not even getting Blinken and Biden involved. And a lot of these talks have been talking about how do we find an off-ramp? How do we get the United States out of this war? Because just like it was said, it's been a disaster. So they want to find an off-ramp where they can amicably move on because the embarrassment they had. And like I've said before, and we've seen this, when USAID and Samantha Power, she's gone in with Zelensky. Zelensky's opened the door for BlackRock. They want to get things going eventually over there in Ukraine. They need to end this war. They need an off-ramp. They need to get out of this, and then America can go mess around in Taiwan all they want. But if they want to turn the Ukraine into the fourth industrial revolution testing grounds, from what I already understand, they have 15 cities they already have in place in England in certain places right now. They want to really pump that in to Ukraine. They got to end this war sooner or later. Monsanto's already there, right? Did you know that Putin made a law? The Russian Federation made a law that pretty much criminalized anybody using genetically
GMOs.
modified seeds and soils and shit food, right? Like, so I've been phrasing this question here, and I got a question for you right now because it's interesting because where you used to be, and I can't wait to talk to my friends at RBN when we do talk about this. What's more important, that we have Medicare for all on the table, or we get rid of Monsanto in America and start growing healthy food again? What are your thoughts?
I would say that's very difficult, but I think with Medicare for all, you're going to have a lot of bureaucracy get in the way. It's not going to be as easy as people think to resolve this, just mainly because of how far gone the healthcare system is in terms of it's just a business. So I don't think that would be replaced immediately. I think if you do ban genetically modified foods, people would be a lot healthier in the United States right away. You really see a difference in how people live here and how they look and stuff. I mean, people here are not overweight at all. You rarely see people be overweight. And the thing is, it's also the walking. That's another part of it for sure. At least in Moscow, but it's also the food. It tastes different. I will say that the food in the United States, they put stuff in it to make it addictive. They put stuff in it to make it taste better. The portions are at least twice as large, and it's very. I think that you can't just at the stage the United States is in, you can't just say have Medicare for all and that solves the problem. There's going to be there would have to be a complete revamping of the entire system as a whole for it to have an effective healthcare system, because you even see countries like England and Canada run into problems in spite of having healthcare. There's a lot of issues that happen. And so for me, just living here and seeing the different problems with different healthcare systems, it's not just about having healthcare for all. Like, it's about finding a system that works for everybody and that is free for people, but that's not going to rid you of the problems that other nationally public healthcare has. It is going to get rid of the middlemen, though. It's going to get rid of the insurance. That's the thing. Like, and in the United States, people don't want to get rid of the insurance providers. So that's a whole other problem because people want that sort of choice. And so obviously I don't believe in that because I don't think it's a choice. I think it's business coming in and trying to manipulate things. But if that's what Americans want, it's just never going to happen because you're going to have the insurance companies come in there and still have a hold on it. So I think it would just be easier to focus on the fastest change would come from banning something like GMOs. But I don't think you're going to get any of that in the United States because the United States is completely embedded in those corporations. I
I
mean,
think
they are the
we have to get
backbone
the
of our
mindset
country.
though, fam. I think what we're talking about is getting the mindset of the people in the right spot. You know what I'm saying? Because I know a lot of people are still hanging on to Medicare for all, and I said, well, what does that look like? What bill are we talking about? Are we talking about Jamila Pramila Jayapal's bill? Because that's a handout to the insurance companies. It's a handout to big pharma, and I'm not for that. So for me, it would think like, listen, if we just kicked out like what Putin did, it's against the law to grow GMO foods. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're fixing the front end of the healthcare system that needs to be addressed as opposed to the back end. When I say back end, I'm meaning we have a healthcare system that is built upon sick care. When you get sick, how do they get you better? You take a pill, you take a cream, you take a shot, rather than having healthy choices, healthy foods. Russia, they also have smaller portions I see in their food. You talked about this as well. The portions are smaller. People walk and they get exercise. Somebody's been playing that one video of like, it's a concert of a bunch of American people, you know, and they're out in the summer and they're all big and they're fat and they're having a good time. And it's like, you know, they're, you know, as opposed to a bunch of Russians that young people were dancing, looking all healthy and just so much better. I mean, we need to really fix the front end. This is something that Dr. Ryan Cole had talked about with me, you know, and that was following COVID in real time with Dr. Cole, who was one of the best. And he was like, the whole system itself has got to go. It's a sick care system. We need to
That's
change
what I'm saying.
everything.
It has to be the whole system, though, because you can't just say healthy food because healthy food is expensive and only certain people have access to that healthy
We have to
food a
change
lot of the
that.
times, or
Yeah.
spend they have to spend time consuming. And meanwhile, people are still sick and people are still sick because of the unhealthy food. Like, so it's like they're sick anyway. You have to deal with
Yeah.
sick people who are already sick. And so it has to be that too. And I don't think we're going to get people to agree that it's just going to be, you know, eating healthy only, because some people now have, because of the system you've lived in, have some diseases like diabetes, they have this or that. And then so now it just becomes a thing that it's like
Yeah.
a snowball effect. It gets worse and worse and worse, and you start picking up more shit. And by the time it gets there, it's just too big to, you have to
Yeah.
get rid of the whole thing.
I
Yeah.
don't want to. I don't want anybody going broke too from their insurance bills. I think that's awful, fam. I did find a New York Post over here that might be a little bit better, really quick. I think this is just so intriguing. I mean, this is the, you know, when you start talking about former U.S. officials meet privately with Russia for Ukraine peace talks. So it was Richard Haas of the Council of Foreign Relations, former fam U.S. officials who don't even work anymore. You can see they met with Lavrov in New York. 3 former U.S. national security officials, excuse me, met privately with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in New York earlier this year, hoping to lay groundwork for the possible negotiations to end Moscow's war in Ukraine. The April talk, which was intended to be kept confidential, but was reported by NBC News Thursday, revolved around potential off-ramps for the conflict. Topics reportedly included the fate of the Russian-held Ukrainian territory that Kiev may not be able to liberate in its current counteroffensive, you think. The officials who spoke with Lavrov with the Biden administration's knowledge, but not at its direction. So, in other words, they told them, but Biden's administration had nothing to say to bring to the table. It was all dealing with the Council of Foreign Relations. Like I said, Biden's bosses held the meeting to keep communications open with the Kremlin and search for opportunities for future compromise that could be used in negotiations, according to NBC, which cited 4 former and 2 current U.S. officials in its report. The discussion, which lasted for several hours, occurred while Lavrov was in the U.S. for a meeting of the United Nations Council. And you can see there he is, fam, your man, Mr. Lavrov.
So I have a couple things. Oh, here, if you want to continue, but I have a
Sure.
couple things to say. Yeah, why don't you continue if there's anything else you want to say?
No, that was pretty much the most of it right there. It said White House spokesman Andrew Bates told reporters on board Air Force One Thursday that he was not going to speak about any for any private citizens who are not members of the administration, and added, "Our focus is on continuing to help Ukraine succeed on the battlefield so they can negotiate from a position of maximum strength in their terms, on their terms, and no one else's." So that was it.
Yeah, so I don't know how much stock I would put in that meeting because I know you probably have the conspiracy, whatever, like everybody's saying, oh, this proves that this is Russia is really opposed or having secret meetings. Um, Lavrov's job is to be a diplomat. So he is going to go out there and literally have meetings with anybody. And one of the things Russia has talked about ad nauseum is they want to negotiate. They've been wanting to negotiate for a long time. The problem is the United States and NATO keep sending ammunitions to Ukraine. So once they've done that and they've crossed several lines, including the Crimean Bridge, the pipelines, and now of course the threat of Zaporozhye. Now you're seeing less and less desire from Russia to say this will be negotiated. The belief is now this will end on the battlefield. That there is really little room for negotiation because they are not serious, meaning they want Russia to give up XYZ, things that Russia is not going to give up. So there is not a potential, in my opinion, for negotiation on a basis of meetings like this. There could be a lot of talk, a lot of back and forth, a lot of discussion. But at the end of the day, the belief right now is that the negotiations will happen on the battlefield after Russia wins this war. That is their belief, and that is what they've been doing. In Russia, people need to understand the government works in a way where they are separate and they stick to their own duties. So Lavrov is Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's going to handle the foreign policy, the meetings with his counterparts and these officials talking about, potential economic relationships, cooperation with China, with the Arab world. He'll go to all those meetings. Then you have the Kremlin, that pretty much is Putin sticks in Russia and also handles some of the potential meetings, but he's mainly looking out for the entirety of Russia and the country itself. And then you have the Ministry of Defense, which is handling the conflict, and then of course you have the FSB, which is Russia's security service. And yeah, there is communication, but there's also differences of opinion. There's differences in how they handle things. And so out of all of those, the most diplomatic one is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And you have Lavrov, who will get feisty, but the most feisty one, of course, is Maria Zakharova, who really calls out the West every day on whatever they do and the hypocrisy. So I wouldn't put much stock in this is going to signify the Russians are just going to do what the Council of Foreign Relations want. I do agree that they want the Council of Foreign Relations. The whole point of Ukraine is to turn it into a part of the European Fourth Industrial Revolution world that they want to make Europe. But that won't happen in Russia. Russia wants nothing to do with that. They see this as an existential war, a war that if Russia does not win this, they will stop being Russia. The Russia will cease to exist. So that is the mindset they're going into this conflict with. And I don't think it necessarily started there, but I think that's where it's gone because of just the stakes have gotten higher and higher. And of course, in the same way, NATO thinks of this as an existential war. Ukraine must win, Russia must lose, because then they see things going down. But I do think that there is going to be an end to this. I don't think it's going to happen though via the negotiation table. Unless there's some sort of like weird like infiltration of people, and I believe that there could be in the Russian government. Absolutely, there is everywhere, right? So
Yeah.
But
To
the
me, it
vast
seems like.
majority, yeah,
I was just gonna say, it just seems like that the administration is so fucking lost that the Council of Foreign Relations had to step in and like, all right, what can we do to get this shit done? We can't depend on these idiots anymore. Um, what do we need to get done, Lavrov? Tell us what we need to get done. We want to exit this war somehow. And obviously, those driving the buses. I think I look at this as a big win for the Russian Federation and for Lavrov that the Council of Foreign Relations are coming to him, going, "Hey, man,
yeah,
we need to do something here. What can we do on this end?" At least that's the way
yeah,
I see it. As them going to him, how do we end this? Because, like I said, how are they going to have all these other companies come in here, like Nestle and Monsanto and all these other countries that BlackRock is trying to bring into Kiev, unless they can get this war stopped somehow? And I think they bit off way more than they can chew, and they're trying to figure out a way out of it desperately. That's what I'm seeing.
And I have to give you the other side that was said here when this came out, was that NBC and whoever was spreading, because NBC I think talked about this, was spreading a fake information that there were no secret talks between Lavrov and the Council of Foreign Relations. The group of U.S. officials is how they described it. And they made it sound like they were negotiating peace talks. This is what happened when it happened. They said it was peace talks. It was just a conversation. And so the Russian foreign ministry said that it wasn't any sort of discussion at all whatsoever. And that Lavrov was just there for the UN Security Council meeting. And yeah, so they're kind of sort of denying that anything really happened between them. So it's hard to say. If Lavrov were to have a discussion with the Council of Foreign Relations, Putin would have approved it. There's no way that would have happened without Putin's approval. So it's kind of hard to say if it happened or not. But I will say that at the very least, they are saying that it didn't happen the way it was promoted, as some sort of separate peace talk, and that they wouldn't entertain that without having a conversation. That that like the CFR is not having a conversation with the Kremlin, like that's not happening, is what they're saying.